Martin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nuria. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to ODI to invite me to be here today. Being in the last table today have many advantages that we have been listening a lot of things during the day. So many of the things that I had prepared for this presentation, I will skip to concentrate on the different things that I wanted to share with you about these issues. First, I would like to make reference to the context where we developed development cooperation. We are talking about a specific issue. We are not dealing with financial flows because we are not bankers. We work with development cooperation, and that have very specific complexities. And I would like to mention the complexity of the concept of development itself, a development that is not anymore only economic growth, that it account for sustainable development with a human rights perspective. So it's our object of work, our core business is a complex one. Second, the complex of the context that have been mentioned today with new actors, with new sectors or areas where cooperation works, with new instruments that we need to be effective in order to work with cooperation. So a complex concept, excuse me for my English, dynamic environment with new instruments, new actors, and new sectors. That's something that we have to have in mind in order to try to guess where all the things about international financing will go. The second element of this context I want to stress is that the idea of cooperation has to do with values, with principles. We make cooperation because it's the right thing to do, not because only our financial figures and countings. Obviously, every country, every institution have interest, but we are in the cooperation business because of those values. And reading all the papers for the conference, I missed many words. I missed many perhaps old-fashioned words, as Romilly was saying, that perhaps are not on fashion today. I couldn't find any mention to democracy. I couldn't find any mention to human rights. I couldn't find any mention to policy coherence. I do find some mention to equality, and today the word was there. But coming from the most unequal continent in the world, despite of the fact my country is the most equal country in Latin America, I live in the most unequal continent. So equality is something that is extremely important for our country. So I would like to stress those issues of values in this complex context. Having said that, I would like to mention two things that I think we have to consider in order to analyze the issues of this session. First is the institutional perspective. I think we have a lot of institutional challenges if we want to make this international public finance more effective for development. And I'd like to mention at least two. One, global challenge. If we will give international financial institutions a more important role in the global development agenda, we have to change their governance. The countries have not have equal participation in the boards of the international financial institutions. I don't even have a seat as a country in the International Monetary Fund. So if we will shift the place where the global agenda of development will not be anymore in the United Nations, and it will be decided in the international financial institutions, every country has to be represented in a certain way there, and not only those who have the highest amount of funds of those banks. So the governance of the global financial institution have to reflect the new powers, particularly those of the South, of all the South. The South is not only China, India, or Brazil. The South is quite big. Another issue in that global perspective is that those financial institutions have certain models of development, certain way of seeing development that is quite different from the ones that are more of the social policies and development institutions. And the struggle, the global struggle about this institution have been strong the last 5-8 years. Probably it was strong from the very beginning, but the last 5-8 years there has been a strong fight among those models of what is development, what is the content, how we pursue development, how we look for the real development. So those institutions, mostly based on economic growth as a perspective of development, have to incorporate more multidimensional approaches to development in order to effectively achieve those development goals, no matter which one we define. But if we want to respect that human development perspective, we have to incorporate those elements in their perspective of their institutions. We have been talking today a lot about taxes and national use of local revenues and all that. And I agree very much with Romilly about that when markets fail, public policy has to go there to arrange the things. But the bad news is we not always can do that. Many times in weak countries, when the failed is made, it's late. So it's not only a case to go after the market to extract the taxes and then try to repair the social and environmental impact of what is happening. So it's from the very beginning of the development process that we have to design and implement development processes that respect those views of development that are suitable for those views of development. There's something that has to be included from the very beginning. Second part of these institutional challenges has to be at the national level. Every of you that works on the field knows that the country is such a big thing. When you talk with a country in the south, unless you are seated with the president, it's very different what you will hear, depends on who you talk to. If you talk to the Ministry of Finance, you will hear some keywords. If you talk with the Ministry of Infrastructure, you will hear other words. And if you talk with the Development Ministry or the Agency of Cooperation, you will hear other words. So the same incoherent policies that the developed country has here in Europe, you can imagine that obviously are even stronger in our countries. So if the development policies shift to the banks in the north, they will talk to the banks in the south. They will not talk with the Ministry of Social Policies. They will sit down with the Ministry of Finance and make the figures. So that line is not north, south, rich, poor. It's also a way of seeing development. So we do not have to promote the difficult of the coherence of the national policies in the South countries, just promoting a negotiation of funds through banks is such an important thing, development, to leave it in the hands of bankers. Last, one thing that we can do with this international public finance. I would like to concentrate in an area that I have been working with for many years now. That is SouthSouth Cooperation. If you analyze from the Second World War let's say 1950 to today, we make a research in order to analyze every international global relevant event related to South-South cooperation. We count 300 events globally about South-South cooperation in a little bit more than 60 years. But more than 200 were in this century, from 2000 to now. And more than 120 in the last 4 years, from 2009 until the end of 2013. That was when we finished that study. So I know South-South cooperation is something old, but the importance that this type of cooperation has in the global development agenda nowadays have been growing constantly the last decade, and particularly the last 5, 6, 7 years. Only in Latin America, my own region, there are every year more than 500 development projects, 200 small projects or activities, we call on those statistics, related to South-South cooperation. So this politically driven process shows how important is that for the countries and for authorities of those countries that put political and economic commitment on that process of South-South cooperation, a type of cooperation more horizontal, more flexible, that really wants or look for the mutual benefit of the process. So that can be a powerful instrument to support countries to collaborate among themselves. Those international public finance that every day more come from the South institution, if we see that the Development Bank of China have a total fund that is 5 times bigger than the International Monetary Fund, we have an idea of those powerful instruments inside the hands of the South, and then can promote better cooperation and development policies using the best characteristics of the South, because we also have, as every region, as every country, very bad characteristics too. So those heterogeneous countries, those heterogeneous conditions of development needs very different agendas. So we have to tailor all the instruments according to the development needs of these countries. And the fiscal policies of the countries that are have been improving their policies in the South can be a good example to make them share those policies to other countries in order to transform their capacity of collecting local revenues for better cooperation policies. Thank you.